Hello everyone, welcome to Salesforce Women in Tech Group Kolkata. We are super thrilled for today, which is day 3 of Service Cloud Consultant Certification Bootcamp. My name is Kathy Mehta. I lead Salesforce Women in Tech Group Kolkata. A very quick introduction about me. So as I was saying, I am proud to call myself as Salesforce Marketing Champion. I am recently featured on Salesforce blog as well. Professionally, I work as a Salesforce developer at Cognizant. I am 4x Salesforce certified, I am 2x Copado certified, and 1x Blossom Professional certified. I am a community speaker and a Trailhead mentor as well. My blog's name is all about Salesforce. So the agenda of the boot camp is basically we had day 1 and day 2 of the boot camp, and all the link uploads are there in the YouTube. Today is day 3, which is implementation strategies. 15% will be taken by Neha Bhardwaj, and Service Cloud Solution Design, which is 16% of the exam, will be taken by Anand Singh. So we have some awesome swag kits and prizes for our attendees. All you need to do is follow Salesforce Bit Group on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and community pages. Follow Appians on all social media platforms. You need to RSVP and attend all the 6 days of the bootcamp. Try and stay active and share your learnings. Don't forget to tag us and our sponsors over LinkedIn and Twitter, and use hashtag with Kolkata with Bootcamp and Trailblazer Community. All the details will be mentioned in the chat box, so don't worry. So we have some contests running. First contest is there will be 3 to 4 questions uploaded just after the session on Salesforce with LinkedIn and Twitter page. All you need to do is follow the channels, answer back with the possible answer you think with the hashtag and the tags. You can post about the key takeaways from the session and tag us, and also use the hashtags mentioned. You can also post a video of at most 1 minute wherein you can share your learnings and what you like the best. Spread awareness of the bootcamp and stay active throughout the bootcamp. So we have awesome swag kits planned by me and Appians. So just stay active throughout the bootcamp and you might win one. Service Cloud Consultant Certification Bootcamp is sponsored by Appians. Thank you, Appians, for sponsoring this bootcamp. And we have Hasti from Appians representing Appians. So over to you, Hasti.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting week of Service Cloud Bootcamp. Sure, you all had a blast learning lots from week 2. I'm Hasti from Team Appians. We are registered Salesforce partners. We have and are working with some of the highly reputed organizations and companies globally. We're extremely happy to be a part of this wonderful community and super excited to be sponsoring this event. I hope you all are geared up to learn some exciting stuff from our subject experts and win amazing swags, gifts, and Amazon vouchers on successful completion of the bootcamp. On that note, I would like to say that Appians organizes bi-monthly series where we invite industry and leaders, industry experts and leaders to share some insightful information about all things Salesforce. And you can join our events. I'll be linking all our social media handles in our comment section, and you can stay tuned for our upcoming events. So have a great time and happy learning.
Yep. Thank you, Hasti. Thank you, Appians.
Thank you.
So let's move on directly to our today's speaker. We have Neha Bharadwaj with us. She is Director of Solutions at Stacknesses. She is also a Salesforce architect. She is also a Journey to Salesforce mentor and a community speaker. She'll be taking implementation strategies, which is 15% of the exam. The second speaker for the day is Anand Singh. He is recently been called out as group leader of User Group Kolkata. He is working as a specialist senior at Deloitte. He is also a Trailhead Ranger and Success Salesforce certified. He'll be taking Service Cloud Solution Design, which is 16% of the exam. So not wasting further time, over to you, Neha. Just a moment, I'll make Neha the host. Hi, Neha.
Hey, Kathy. Good morning, everyone.
You can start with the event.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. Guys, good morning and good afternoon, good evening, as per the time where you have joined us from today. Before I start, I would like to thank Kathy to conduct this, amazing series. I have heard the other ones. I've been part of that shortly, and I always like the content that these guys are presenting. We continue attending. It's a very, very informative series and one of the very important, I would say, topics in Salesforce during your Salesforce tenure or career. So, again, once again, welcome back. I'll share my screen real quick and then we can get started. Hold on, guys. It's taking me a minute. Kathy, I'm getting a message. There is a problem sharing your screen.
So, is it your browser's issue?
I'm on Chrome.
Shouldn't be an issue. Could you please retry?
Yes. Yeah, I think there's some problem. Let's see. Let me know what screen you see.
Yes, we see your screen now.
What is it that you look at? Is it
The
the
slides.
perfect? Sounds good.
Yes, you can start with the slides now.
Absolutely. Just give me one second. As Kathy mentioned, today's session, the first part of the session is going to be about the implementation strategy. I'd start with this. Swati did introduce myself, so I'd skip this slide and come here. Implementation strategies is as you would suggest or depict by the name. It's not an absolutely technical topic, I would say. This is somewhere around some architectural decisions, some consulting decisions that you take while you kind of develop the applications using Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, or any cloud. So these strategies are as much as applicable for the other clouds as would be for Service Cloud. So this is going to be one of the very interesting topics. Whether you're giving exams for the sales, whether you're giving it for the, I would say, communities, this still remains in place. So your strategies does not change. Just the name of the clouds and the inner details go, that do change, of course. So, let me move to the next slide where the implementation strategy holds 15% of your exam weightage. And the two most important things that you should be learning as part of this topic is going to be the given a scenario, determine how to facilitate a successful consulting engagement. So, what does that mean? That essentially means, on a high level, that you have to learn how to deliver the solution end to end. It's not just development, it's not just configuration that you learn under this topic, but as a consulting partner, as an architect, you also learn how to deliver that solution, how to plan for it, how to understand what your requirements are, how to design, come up with an effective design, build that solution, test it, document it, push it to the other end and then support it. And where I said, push it to the other end to production and support it is where the second part comes into the picture, the deployment strategies. Outside this, I have seen the trend that a lot of questions comes from, or this information about the licensing is one of the very important topics that you would want to understand while you appear for this exam. So I'll quickly move to the next slide and we'll see what is the implementation process or the strategy that Salesforce suggests that we should use. Or in general, I would say, I know that a lot of folks that are attending today, you'd be from the technical background, you'd had your BTECs or MCS, BCS done. Some might not, but when you're in software industry, you do understand this entire cycle, which is supported by Salesforce, which is recommended by Salesforce as the implementation strategy. So basically, as I said before, you have to plan the entire implementation. You'll have to analyze it, design your solution, build your solution where you configure and develop things, validate it where you test it, and then you ultimately deploy it to the higher ends. Moving to the next slide, let's look at what is planning all about. So just give me one sec. So planning is basically identifying reason for change, and I would say high level requirements, and start mapping out the possible solution. That's what your agenda for the entire plan should be. What do you do as part of your planning? How do you strategize? How do you plan to deliver your project at best, to roll out your Service Cloud solution at its best? Where do you start from? First, you prepare some set of questions for your customer. You would, whenever you want to build a solution, you would you'd have a lot of solution to start with, and the first solution amongst that is going to be, I know this is the client, this is the organization that I'm working for, this is the department that we're going to build solution for, but who's the actual stakeholder? What is the role? What is the org chart that I'm designing the solution for? What kind of personas would be in my system? Why do they want to use the system? These kind of questions starts coming into your mind. And how does that evolve? Then you go ahead and you understand who are your stakeholders, what are their role hierarchies, where do they come into the picture, and then you interview the stakeholders to understand the current process that they're following. Now, while you're doing this planning, you might see two circumstances where, one, they have never been, they've always been doing things manually. They don't have an automation in process. They have been, doing a paper pen, old style files, which still happens, believe me. And it does happen I work in a lot of projects in US and Canada, and still there, I have seen a lot of departments who are still working with paper and pen. So again, the standard way or the custom way of doing their work, they have been still doing that. The other is where they are already using an application where they have the automated processes in place, but yet they would want to move away from them or enhance them or stuff like that. So once you understand what is their current process, what's the flow, what's the business flow, then what do? You go ahead and you try to examine what are the pain points of the current process and system. Okay, so again, we divided into two parts. Say that they're not using any system at all. So you, first of all, you understand what is the current business process. Okay, there's no system to judge. So you will see what is that business process. The data or the application that you're doing flows from where to where, and what happens in between. What are the stages that it passes in between before it reaches out to its final stage. So I'll just throw a very basic example since we're talking about Service Cloud. Say that this organization that you're trying to build solution for is they capture some cases, they work on their cases, and they kind of close it as successful or they close it as unsuccessful, and they put their comments. But of course, in this entire process, there's going to be one or two analysts would be involved. So once a case would be created, you'd analyze which person is best suited to do it. So it will go to that person. The file will go to that person, or the application form, case form would go to that person. He'd analyze, he would talk to the stakeholder, or he'd talk to the person who raised the case, figure out what is the problem. There will be a communication. They will capture some information again on the form, and then either they process it or they're able to solve it, or if in case they believe they would want to move it ahead with someone else, to the higher level, since it is not their forte, they'll move it to the next. And then this entire cycle would pass on. There would be escalations if the time has already elapsed, stuff like that. I'm sure that you'd go through this entire process of case management while you'll do other sessions. But this is how it flows. So understanding this process, understanding this entire system is what that you'll do. And then at the top of it, you will try to understand within this manual process what is their pain area, what is causing them most of the time, whether it is talking to the client, talking to the person who submitted the case as a problem statement. So you would take that into account. How are they currently doing it? Are they sending mails? Oh, then that should not happen. Maybe we introduce, for example, maybe we can introduce something else in Salesforce which could eliminate this, cumbersome task of them calling people or mailing them and getting the information. So again, understanding the pain points is extremely, extremely important. Now, coming back to the scenario 2 where you have a system. Now, so they have a system. It has a cycle that it follows from one stage to other to next. It moves. There's an escalation process. But let's say the form on which they're capturing the information, the case, that's not very efficient. The number of fields that they wanted, the information that they want to capture, it's not sufficient. They want more. They want automatic routing on the basis of skills. So stuff like that they need. And right now this whole thing is manual, though the system is already in place. So again, understand the pain points. It is very, very important to kind of focus on this. That's why I'm kind of emphasizing this. Unless and until you understand the requirement, unless and until you understand the pain points of the person, you don't understand the current process, it is absolutely not possible that you succeed in delivering what the client requires you from. So the entire base of your strategy is dependent upon this part, understanding the current processes and figuring out the pain points. Once you have it, then only you'll be able to solution. So I quickly move to the next. You try to see what reports they're already using. Maybe they would want to see, with the same case example, I would take a simple one. The management every week wants to see how many cases were open in a particular stage, same in open stage to in progress, for how many days they were there, who was working on it, and what was the resolution afterwards. Okay, so stuff like that. There could be multiple reports that they're using. So you would want to understand what kind of data they want to see, what kind of data the juniors want to see, what kind of data the stakeholder or your program manager wants to see, program owner wants to see, and what the management wants to see. You would want to understand what are the different business rules. As I say, 2 days SLA, 3 days is SLA. After SLA, what happens? So you would want to understand what are the business rules to design the system better, to capture the requirements better. And then you create a process map where you say, okay, X user performed this section, and then it goes to Y stage where, another user performed this section, and it goes so on and so forth. So you kind of come up with a process map with user interactions. After you have analyzed what, on a higher level, what is required, and it's absolutely high level, which is going on right now. Once you understand that, then you go ahead, work with your stakeholders very, very closely, and you define the purpose of your solution. Why are you designing that solution is something that you need to come up with. You have to understand what is the scope. The word is unlimited. You have unlimited feature with Salesforce, unlimited features with Service Cloud that you can offer, but definitely it depends upon what's their budget, what's their time, what is their preference, that you would define scope on the basis of what was shared with you while you were, kind of talking to the stakeholders for these 3 points. So then you define the purpose, you define the scope, and then you define the timelines. And once you do that, depending upon the 2 factors, what's the time and what's the money being involved here. And again, on the top of it, the 3D factor is what has been already shared with you. You define the risk in developing this application, that, these are the probable risks while we develop. This is something that we might not be able to deliver within this time. So we might need it, another sprint, we might need another release to do that. So stuff like that goes in here. So once you define the deliverables, then you're going to hand it over to your stakeholders for the review. So this is what entire, I would say, your plan is all about. Let me move to the next slide. Excuse me. Next slide is your analysis. So what happens in analysis? In very, very simple terms, analysis is all about capturing your requirements in detail. Whatever you had on your high level, now you try to map it with a detailed requirement, and then you try to map it to the scope, whether the two things matters or not. Maybe scope says that we're doing case management, but while you were capturing the requirements, you realized that they talked about, let's say they talked about opportunities also. That is part of the requirements which is shared with you, but that's not scope. Okay, so you kind of detail out everything. You conduct interviews, surveys, workshop to elicit the requirements or gather the requirements in simple terms, and then you follow up on the pending items. This is something that we were talking last week. Now let's take it up. Let's bring it to the closure. Things like that done over here. A final walkthrough is done with the stakeholders or your product owner to confirm that, okay, these are the requirements and we would want to close on them. And then you verify it against the scope. Okay, so you have the scope defined here in your previous stage, and then you go ahead over here and you try to map your detailed requirements with them. Now, once you have done that, you prioritize requirements. Again, with time and money, it's not possible. With limited time and with limited money, okay, we'll have to compromise on the requirements sometime. We'll have to prioritize certain things over the others. And any which ways, we'll talk about agile methodologies, which definitely requires you to prioritize and deliver the MVPs, and then you keep building over it. So that's important to understand what requirements you deliver 1, 2, 3, 4. That sequencing needs to be done there. And then you identify the gaps between the two, get the other requirements that are not part of your scope either removed or increase your scope that impacts your money, that impacts your timelines, and then you get a final approval on that. Now, once you've done this, you are, I would say, if these two steps are done well, you have already won your half battle, because now you understand what you have to build. And when you understand the problem statement, when you understand what client wants, you're halfway through. You know your job. So let's move. What do you do next? Now, you go back to your technical team. This is where your senior developers, this is where your technical architects, your functional architect, solution architect, application architects comes into the picture. Of course, they were part of this as well, but they were not very actively involved in these two stages. Whereas this stage is their stage, where they design the application on a high level. They would see how this application that you're designing is going to interact with the other systems. So the enterprise architecture is to be designed, high level application architecture is to be designed, and once it is approved, then the architect team or the developers team sit together with the other stakeholders and design the low level. Now you design here in the high level, just throwing an example so that you understand. In the high level design, they're going to say, okay, we're going to interact with 5 systems. But when you go to the low level design, you identify how we're going to communicate with each of them. Are we going to use MuleSoft? In MuleSoft, what job I'm going to use? I'm going to write point-to-point interactions. I'm going to use their API. Which API I'm going to use? So this is what comes into the low-level details. Okay? Let's move to the next. Once you have your design in place, that's where your developers start working upon it. So your developers, your admins would be actively involved in your build stage. Once the architects deliver their documents to both the stakeholders and to the technical team, to your, I would say, admins and your developers. So what is a part of build? You all are pretty much aware of it. Configuration and customization, any kind of customization, whether it's code or whether you're using flows and other powerful tools given by Salesforce platform, provided by Salesforce platform, that comes over here. Once that is done, you kind of keep demoing this to your client, to your stakeholders, to your architects, and this is what you're building. Then you keep preparing your training documentation as well. Your technical documentation and your training documentation as well are built as part of this. And these, when I say documentation and training, this is extremely important. You would see we're going to use these in the further strategies or further steps of our strategization. Validation. Your product is already built. I would say the developers have already started building this product. Now here where your quality analysts, your testers comes into the picture, and they're extremely important. You know, a good quality assurance team is extremely important for a successful delivery. So strategize on a good quality, I would say, a good quality plan. Strategize on or build a good quality team is one of the most important aspects. What do they do? Okay, I'm a developer. I'm developing this application from my understanding, but this guy's job is to see whether what my technical architect said is being developed or not. Did Neha exactly develop what the technical architect said or not? Is she meeting every acceptance criteria that was defined in the story by the business analyst or not? Okay, did she miss something? Also, at the same time, on a very high level, they also check that whether we meet all the requirements that were given by the clients or not. Okay, so that's also part of validation. So they do end-to-end testing. Also, they do test performance. Once everything of this sort is done, the ball moves to the user acceptance testing. What is user acceptance testing? Again, I would say a lot of you guys know it already, so I'll be quick about it. There's a subset of users from the business side which comes into the system. We give them access of Salesforce, and they start testing the application. You know, if you go back, we have been demoing things, we have been preparing the training materials and documentation around, and now they use this user acceptance team. They go ahead into the system and they test this application and try to validate whatever they need. Does the system exactly do that, or probably we have built something else altogether? So that's what. Now, if any bugs are found, they have been fixed, and then the validations are done, and that's where the deployment starts. So you've created the application, it has been validated, all looks good. You get on a call, your team, your architect, your senior developers, quality assurance leads, get on a call with the stakeholders along with the business analyst and project manager, and then they decide, okay, we are ready, we're meeting the timelines, okay, this is the date that we are ready to go live. What do you do then? You start preparing for your deployments. Although you were already doing that, while you were documenting, you were also documenting what you built, right? How does that help you now? Now you know what you built, what code you built, what configurations you did, and the list that you already have is your checklist for your deployment, which you're going to use to deploy the things that you developed on Sandbox to production, from lower environments to higher environments. Okay. Now these sandbox environments, you can have multiple depending upon how your organization function and what you talk through your client with. But generally, you have I would say, a dev environment where your developers develop. Then you have a QA environment where the quality analyst team tests. Then you have a UAT where user acceptance testing happens and everything looks good. The UAT environment is very close to production, I would say. Once everything looks good over there, then you try and test with the real data sometimes, sample data sometimes, you load data, and then you go ahead and move it to production, which then means it is ready to be used live. The live audience can interact, the live stakeholders can work with the application. Now, once you've done that, there are certain parts that you would want to train your users, and you want to do some knowledge transfers at the end of the day. Okay, you are preparing your training material. This is the time to hand over. Also, in certain cases, as we said, the data migration, data loading is also part of your development. When I say data migration, again, we'd go back to step one where we analyze that they were already using this application for, say, last 10 years. Now they want to bring over all the cases for these 10 years that they resolve or they have been currently working upon, yet not resolved, to this new application, that Service Cloud solution that you have built. So then what you have to do, you'll have to migrate the data from your older system to new. Now there are different tools that you can use to do these migration. I'll not get into it, but somehow using some strategies, you'd move from A to B system, your new system. Once everything looks good, validated, you take a sign off from the stakeholder, product owners and product managers. And then at the end of the day, you do a retro meeting with the client and all the stakeholders involved take each other's feedback. Not just the client feedback is important here, it is extremely important to capture the feedback from the technical team as well, and also from the management team. Okay, why that's important? Because we learn as we grow. So for this project, probably we did some mistake that we want to capture. Probably we did certain good things that we would want to capture. A strategy, probably we adopted to a 2 week sprints. Just showing an example, and developers felt that that was a good idea. It was pretty much iterative, and they were able to deliver things faster. Maybe they notify that. So these kind of things are noted here, talk to each other, and kind of a document is prepared, and it can be used for the further release or for the other products as you go ahead. Now, this is, I would say, this is your big part of your or major part of your implementation strategy. So you plan, you analyze, you design, you build, you validate, and then you go ahead and deploy that. So this is the whole strategy, and this is more or less is the software life cycle, software development life cycle that you guys have been studying all around. Yeah. So while we're discussing this, and I move away from this topic, I would quickly want to bring your notice to two major keywords, which are I would say absolutely popular in the industry. Iterative development and release, multiple release, okay, or MVP, minimum viable product. This is very I would say hot topics out there, and this is part of your strategization. So once you strategize and you follow this entire cycle of planning to deployments, you would want to understand whether you want to go with the waterfall model, where you capture all the requirements in the beginning and everything that we discussed happens in a sequence, or whether you want to go with more iterative approach, whether you want to take an agile methodology of software life cycle development, where you develop things in cycles. You'd identify, okay, these, let's say you have 45 requirements in all that you wanted to capture. You have 45 stories that are being captured by your business analyst, and then you'll prioritize them. You'll say, okay, these 10 looks related, the other 15 looks related, and then 10, and then 10 looks related. Why don't we do them? We divide them into sprint. We do an iterative approach, give 10, develop these 10, move it to the bucket of the other stakeholders. They start, testing, they start kind of releasing it. And then simultaneously, the development team keeps working on the next set of the requirements. So important to understand which methodology of the development life cycle is what you would want to adapt for your entire implementation strategy. So, hold on, guys. There you go. Part A of your exam, the strategization planning is done here. The second topic that we saw from implementation strategy point of view is licensing. Now, licensing, I would say on a very, very high level, it defines what kind of features are you going to get when you implement a particular thing, okay, or you buy a particular license for your users, okay. So it kind of defines features, it kind of defines services that would be made available to your org once you invest in those licenses. So that's one thing. Now, very, very quickly again, there could be scenarios when you are approached for Service Cloud solution. Maybe the people for whom you're trying to develop this solution, they already have Salesforce in place. Maybe they already have Sales Cloud, Salesforce platform and product for sales organization. And now they want to, kind of have some use cases or implementation done for service. So that's scenario one. They already own Salesforce. Now they have some licenses already in Wipro. Whereas the other, where they do not have a Salesforce org, they don't have any other users in the system already, and they're building from the scratch. They've absolutely never seen Salesforce as some of this solution that we're talking about. Okay, so if let's say your stakeholders already use the Sales Cloud, okay, then Salesforce offers bundle pricing. What is the meaning of bundle pricing? That integrates both your Sales Cloud and Service Cloud platform together. So if that, so you have certain features on the top of it, you buy whatever you need for your Service Cloud solution. That's one way of doing it. Otherwise, there are three Service Cloud editions, or I would say four Service Cloud edition now, that you can choose from. Regardless of the edition you choose, please keep that in mind. The interface, the way it looks, the way it feels, it's the same. The difference would be in terms of the functionality and in terms of the features that it has to offer and the pricing. That's what it differs. So here's a link. I'm gonna quickly move here, grab the link, and I'll show you. Before you decide on any solution, you will have to understand what kind of licenses we have, what is the cost associated with each of these licenses. Say you're using essential license, it's $25 USD per user per month. And then if you're using professional, it's $75. Enterprise, which is the most popular, it's written over here. It has a lot of features to offer, I would say. Enterprise, I mean, while I have solution, I've been in the industry for good 10 years now from Salesforce perspective, and a lot of organization, bigger size organization, go with the enterprise most of the time. And then there's unlimited, it's unlimited CRM power, anything and everything that Salesforce has to offer, kind of comes in here. On a very high level, that statement is things do matter, but this is how it works. And then the other thing that you would want to understand and you would want to communicate to your client is they can have monthly billing, they can have yearly billing also. And then they can have billings which can span the years. That's also a possibility. So do not forget to check, with Salesforce about these licensing costs. But this is on a higher level, what they have given on their website. Okay. Now, if you'd go down, this is on a higher level, you'd see this is a comparison between what each of these your Salesforce editions has to offer. I'll just quickly show you this one. Service contracts and entitlements. These are not available with the essentials. Okay. On a very high level, but and then if you see over here, web service APIs, if you want to do any kind of integration, not there, not happening. Okay. And then for the enterprise, this particular thing, 24/7 is not available, but for the unlimited, they do have. So this is what they have. Then there are more features down here. Please try to go through them. With respect to the time, I'd not be able to cover everything. But there's one more thing that I want to bring your attention very, very quickly to. If you need some add-ons, you might have heard about the field service, you might have heard about the Einstein knowledge. These are the other things which as an add-on can be purchased from Salesforce on the top of your basic platform licenses that we just spoke about. These are the ones. Okay, let me go back to the slide here and let's see what do we have next. So I've kind of grabbed this summary, which could be important from the Service Cloud perspective from their website again. There was another link over here which talks about feature and pricing. This is the official link from whether I was able to gather the important features of Service Cloud and which edition has what to offer. Let me just increase the screen size. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. There you go. So the four licenses that we just spoke about is essential, professional, enterprise, and unlimited. If you would see here, the chatter is pretty much available with everything, mobile app, files, topics, all of this over here. The places where you see these $ is something which is not available within the license, but you can pay extra and get these things. One is say for example, knowledge read write. So read is there definitely. You don't need any sort of extra pay. You don't have to pay extra in order to read the knowledge article or view the knowledge article. That's okay. Or browse the knowledge articles. But if you need the capability of writing those and then you want to manage the knowledge articles, then in that case, with the professional and enterprise, you will have to buy that additionally. Just these dollar signs when you encounter them. And then if you see CTI integration, absolutely not possible where it's blank. No matter whether you want to pay or not possible. You will have to move the license from essential to professional, okay, or from professional to enterprise if it's blank. You have to move to the next one as per your requirement. And again, it's possible. And how we, or at least, you know, how I have seen during my development phases as a technical architect is that we kind of go with a minimalistic approach, which satisfies most of our requirements. And if we believe there's something that we need, we can always go back to Salesforce and can ask for the, you know, either add-ons or move from one addition to the other. Okay, as applicable, as a requirement. So you can start with the most restricted if your client doesn't want to spend too much. And then as the need increase, as you identify the needs, you can move from one to the other. So that's absolutely possible. Okay, but one thing you'll have to understand is it's possible to have certain features, different kind of features for different users through the user licenses or user feature licenses. But these licenses going to be remain, this is going to remain same. So if you have enterprise for one internal user in the system, you'll have to have enterprise for all the users. You can't have 2 users with enterprise and 2 users with professional. That cannot happen. That you have to keep in mind while you take this decision. And again, it's very, very important to strategize what you're choosing. Your money is absolutely important. Client's money is absolutely important, and choose very, very wisely. Strategize this very, very wisely. Okay. So again, these are some features in case you are interested to look. And a few more. Now, we have discussed on a very high level what these, licenses are, how we can, mix and match things, what is possible, what is not possible in terms of licensing. And now the last topic of implementation strategies, and I'll take it very, very quickly, is deployment strategies. We briefly discussed what is deployment, and which it essentially means migrating your configuration and code to production. We did talk about it. There are several ways or tools that Salesforce has suggested that you can use, out of which most of the times this has been seen that the Visual Studio Code Salesforce extension for deployment is one of the vastly used to deploy the codes. The end migration tools are again very, very popular, and then there are chain sets. Now there are more, but there's a difference, I would say, in the way they can be used. That difference can be, whether you can deploy the data across the unrelated orgs or not. That's one of the most important decision or the factors that would play in role, whether you want to invest in something extra, whether you want to, go ahead with these kind of things or not. It really does matter. So first of all, and most importantly, you will have to understand as a base factor, excuse me guys, that whether you want to move these data between the unrelated orgs or whether it's just the related orgs that you're trying to move data to, one of the most important factors. And then there's this link that I can quickly open up and show you that, what is it, each one of it is about. But before we go ahead and do that, I quickly share what we can achieve through the chain sets, which is, configurable. You don't need anything extra. It is available within the Salesforce environment, easy to train. Admins can take care of it. So a chain set is a set of changes or metadata components that can be deployed to a target org using the Salesforce web interface. Okay, that's the definition which Salesforce gives. Related orgs is the only thing that they can deploy metadata to. That is, again, I'm repeating myself, but this is very, very important decision. Again, money, time is involved here in strategizing. So, and that is the driving factor of everything. So just make sure if you choose chain sets, you cannot deploy data between 2 unrelated orgs. That's not possible. Okay. Now, the deployment connection has to be established before you deploy. So you might have seen, you're on production, you go ahead and you establish a connection with your lower environments. Only then you are able to create your inbound change sets and push it. The people who are already familiar of this process. So that's one thing about the change sets. Talking about the end and your Visual Studio and migration tools, you can deploy data to the related or unrelated orgs. That's open. When your metadata deployment needs to be automated or scheduled, in that particular case, I've always suggested that you go by the int migration tool. It works very, very well with the automation and scheduling of your deployments. It can take care of a lot of things on its own. So that's your solution. Also, when you store your username and password on the local file system, it's absolutely allowed with the int migration, and you need to. You're bound to because you're going to use automation. So that's another thing that you can take care of. Now, coming to the Visual Studio Code, powerful tool, absolutely powerful. I would say something very, very powerful product, which is our development environment, which is provided by Salesforce. It also has a capability to move metadata amongst the related or unrelated org. That's absolutely possible. Version control system, tracking, managing the metadata, everything is possible here as well. You can deploy using command line and point-to-point click interface. Okay, and also, just so that you guys know, it also have the metadata deployment needs that can be completed or achieved through automation and scheduling. So that's also possible over here with the Visual Studio Code. Again, very, very powerful tool. So in case you guys are interested, and this is our last topic for the day. So I quickly grab the link and I can show you over here. Kathy, can you confirm what exactly are you looking at? Is it the...
We are looking at the link that we are trying to open. Now the slides.
Okay. Copy the link and here you go. So there it is. This is the link. And I'd be pasting them on the chat once this session, I'll wrap up. But these are the few things. You have a developer console that you can use to, deploy things, create bug test application. This is powerful. We talked about Studio. We did not cover a metadata API, but this is again one of the more powerful features that you can use to deploy. And migration tool and change sets we did discuss briefly. So let me go back to the slides very quickly. Now, this is a quick summary of what we did, and these are the best practices. Please keep in mind all the things that we discussed, but do not forget these 5 codes when you're developing your solution. And it could be Salesforce Service Cloud, it could be Salesforce Sales Cloud, Community Cloud, any kind of solutioning that you're doing, and not just Salesforce. Outside that, also as an architect, as a solution provider, these are the important codes that you keep in mind always. So what the code number 1 says, in life, as in football, you won't go far unless you know where the goalposts are. So, as I said very, very initially when we started the session, you need to understand your goalpost. You need to understand where you need to go from here. You have to be very thorough with the requirements. They should be very well captured. The pitfalls, the gaps should be identified very, very well. If you don't know where to go, whether you're a good passer or not, no matter what, you're never going to win the game. The second code is, again, the most reliable way to forecast the future is try to understand the present. And it almost talks about the same thing. You will have to understand the present. You have to understand the current processes so that you forecast what are you going to build in future. What is missing, what is being built is the key to what do you want to build over what is already available. So important to understand that. Number 3 is the strength of a team is that different people with different perspective are part of your team. You would want diverse profiles. You would want diverse kind of users. You'd want developers. You would want admins. You would want consultants. You would want a good quality team. So team does matter. You have to choose your team wisely. Look at the requirements that you have to fulfill. Figure out what features of the cloud or Salesforce are you going to utilize, or any platform for the matter of fact, and then choose your team very, very wisely. See what do you need in your team, whether you need 2 developers and 1 admin, or if it's a lot of configuration and very minimal, I would say development, then why not have 2 admins, and then you have a super admin, and then and a senior admin, and then have a developer in the team. Why don't you go by that? Also, if it's integration that you would want to have other kind of someone who's expert in mutes, or you would also want to have in your team. So be wise when you choose your team. Have diverse people with different opinion also matters. People who think in different direction is also sometimes very, very important. See, so their knowledge has to be diverse, their capabilities has to be diverse. Now, second last, it is essential to have a good tool, okay? But it is also essential that the tools should be used in the right way. Salesforce has a lot to offer. Service Cloud had lot to offer, but unless we understand what features it has to offer, unless we are thorough with the Service Cloud, we understand what is available, what is coming, what is missing also, you have to understand the limitations of your tool also, as much as you have to understand what your tool can do. Both things. When you're well versed with this, your solution would never go wrong. You would know what to use where, and it will be absolutely fine while you design and develop the solutions. So that's that. And now the man himself, Mark, he said that you need to go to the future ahead of your customer and be ready to greet them with when they arrive there. What exactly does that mean? Whenever you design your solution, this is what we talked about, the present, all 4 of them, while you're designing the present solution with the present requirement, all 4 of these. This is absolutely futuristic. The statement by Mark here is as futuristic as he is, honestly. You will have to see what is the capability of your current system, yes, but you also want to design a system, build a system which is expendable. You would not want to design a system which is, which does this and would always do this. It will become stale after a point of time. As the users would use the system, they would have new requirements, they would have new use cases, new scenarios, new business processes, and your system should be able to cope up with those changes, should be able to enhance itself, should be extensible enough to include more features and more customization, I would say. Okay, so an extensible product is to be designed from the earliest stage itself, keeping in mind that customization enhancements might keep coming, and you have to think very, very ahead, a lot ahead from what your customer is thinking right now. You have to use entire your whole experience needs to go into it. Your visibility needs to go into it. The session that you're attending, what you're gaining from here and there with your seniors, everything needs to go in there while you're designing a solution. So don't forget what we discussed, and happy implementing. I really hope that after this session, you guys are able to follow good strategies and design a solution which Mark suggests, extensible solution, a good solution. So thank you all. We are going to have the question answer session later today. But if you guys have any question, you can contact me on LinkedIn, and also you can contact me through the Twitter. So Kathy, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha, for such an insightful session. Meanwhile, everyone, please feel free to drop in your questions in the chat. Neha will take on from there. Thank you, Neha.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much.
Neha, just a request if you could paste all the links that you have provided in your slides.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to do that right away.
Yeah, thank you. So second speaker of the day is Anand Singh, who's going to take Service Cloud Design, which is 15% of the examination. So over to you, Anand.
Hey, hi, Kathy. Hey, everyone. Very good morning. And yeah, so just give me a second. Trying to share my screen. Kathy, let me know if you are able to see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Okay. So before I start, it was a great session from on the implementation strategy. A lot of things had been already covered, and a couple of other sessions also had gone through, so people already know like what exactly knowledge management and other stuff is like. So we are currently talking about the Service Cloud solution design. So what exactly Service Cloud solution design exam weightage contains is like 16%, which is approximately 10 questions that we are gonna deal with. But like, what are the things that we need to uncover while having a solution design in mind while implementing Service Cloud? So basically, there are different phases of solution design, right? Like first you analyze the customer's requirements, then also have to check on the constraints which is given from the customer side. You have to check the capabilities that the Service Cloud provides into the system, if there are any limitations based on licenses, based on the constraints from the customers, and then you have to also consider like what is the design trade-off based on that. So basically, we will be having scenarios which we will have to analyze. We will have to determine the appropriate solution before we go ahead with the implementation. So that is the first part that the solution design covers. The second main important part is like, what is the performance optimization that can be done in a design? Like whether if bringing in another tool or bringing in another feature from Salesforce would help us to optimize the performance. Should that be done, or should it be like, okay, if we can, like if there is constraints on the cost side or other stuff which is a constraint from the customer, should we implement something which is on customizable side and is a minimal requirement from the customer? So those kind of trade-offs has to be done in between, and definitely we go with the best approach first, and then based on the constraints and other limitations, we will be like improvising the design as we go through the workshops. The last part is like the use case and benefits of the features like CTI, communities, and Salesforce Field Service, which is an addition, like which is an integral part of Service Cloud now. So basically, like before we understand the solution design, we have to understand like what exactly are the key features that the Service Cloud provides today. So these are the Service Cloud features which we'll be talking in details, because you have to know your tools well, right, before you like suggest a solution to the customer. So basically, the first and foremost thing is like the Service Console. I think like we all know like what exactly people coming from the technical backgrounds definitely know and have seen like what exactly a Service Console looks like and how exactly we deal through things. That this is one stop for the Service Cloud agents, where you can see all the cases. You can like have the presence routing, you can chat, you can log a call, you can send emails. So this is like one place which actually boosts the agent's productivity and will help you throughout supporting the customer, and it will give also a 360-degree view of the customer to you. The second piece, like the second topic is like the case management, which is a major chunk actually into the solution design part. So basically all things starts from the cases itself, because in a support cycle, this is the first step. Like when the customer moves in, right? Like he has some trouble, or he needs some support, or he wants to file some complaint or something on that sort, or he has a service request. So those kind of things gets transformed into the cases. So the cases can be created from like multiple places, right? Like we have web to case, we have email to case, we have on-demand email to case. So these are all the Service Cloud features which are present in there. We have like Einstein bots, chat bots, which are into the like from WhatsApp, from Twitter. You can gain in details like for your social customers, and the cases can be created based on that. Now, once the case is created, the most important part is like, how do you route those cases to the proper service agents so that they can work upon it? So to route the cases, the most important part on the case management thing is like, there are a bunch of features which case management provides out of the box, like assignment rules, auto response rules, and escalation rules. So these things are quite important while having this case management setup being done into the system. So basically, like you have your support processes, which actually starts like when a case is created and moves until like the case is resolved or closed. So during this entire process, we need to understand like how exactly are we gonna assign the cases to the right agent so that it gets closed at a very faster pace. And for that, we have like tools like Omnichannel, which actually helps us route the cases based on skills. We have capabilities based on that, so that these can be done. And even like we have like the bots, which is playing a role currently to solve the cases. Like even if there are like repeated bots, right? Like MuleSoft has recently launched that MuleSoft RPA, which is getting integrated into the Salesforce ecosystem. This remote process automation will help us actually to like the repetitive tasks will be taken into consideration and will be brought out as a strategical implementation, so that whenever from the bot, if you want to do certain steps and if there is a same type of service request which has come through, you can just automate it. So the case management actually moves through these cycles until the case is resolved. Now, the important part that we need to cover here is like how exactly during a case management, when you get a request, how does entitlement management has a role in that, or how does it play? So basically, you can be entitled for a phone support, or say like some other kind of supports which is applicable for your account for a certain period of time from the vendor who has like sold you the product or certain things. So in that case, it becomes pretty much evident that even before supporting the case, we need to check on these entitlements, and we check on like whether the case milestones are available or not, whether we are entitled to this support service or not. And based on those things, like we determine like how exactly we are gonna take this, because there can be like I am entitled, if I am into a warranty phase, right? Definitely, I am entitled to more luxury than people who are not. Like basically, like if I am already into a warranty, definitely I need to get the support like right there. If I'm not into warranty, definitely the support and the productivity of the agent is gonna be the same to resolve my solution or case. But again, the charges and the cost which is incurred will be different. The knowledge management piece is again on the self-service part. Like basically, by solving a case, the agents actually will be determining like what are the knowledge articles which are already available. So if I am trying to solve a case, and if I am a new service agent into the ecosystem, definitely I need to understand that like what are the articles that are already available to resolve similar type of cases. So there can be multiple cases or multiple support cases that gets logged into like a particular day, and as an agent I need to resolve most of the cases as fast as possible. So if there are, say, knowledge articles which are already available to help me on those, as an agent also it makes me productive. And with the knowledge management feature, it is also like the knowledge articles are actually like recommended, and you can also have like the top 5 knowledge articles based on the like recommendations which is given from the Einstein engine. So we can utilize those features from Service Cloud. And knowledge management again becomes a key role when you are enabling like the self-service channels, like when you are like having your community set up for self-service assistance for the customers. There actually like you can already provide these knowledge articles which are present. So basically, like based on the issue that the customer has raised, the knowledge article can be provided to them. And if that resolves the issue, definitely there is no requirement to create the case and block the time of the agent, basically. So the productivity actually increased, the customer satisfaction scores increase based on that. The next is actually to help the agents solve these cases or the issues of the customers or support the customers. There are multiple things which are supported out of the box from Salesforce, like the macros, quick text. So what exactly is a macro or a quick text? These are actually repetitive actions which you need to do or send. Like if I am like if I just want to type, say, a text with a search term, and definitely that is like something that I write on a regular basis, or there are certain things that I can put in quick text and utilize while sending out emails and email templates and the approvals, which actually helps me to process and routine the automation, basically, which is like a repetitive task for me. So I can just use these things so that it can increase or boost the productivity of the agent. The next part is like service analytics. So service analytics actually will determine, this is part of Einstein features which is available for the Service Cloud, basically. So service analytics actually gives me a 360-degree view of what exactly is happening. It gives supervisor reports, it gives the agent reports, and it also with this Einstein next best action recommendations thing, like we can determine like what exactly is the recommended action on based on these reports. So basically the reports and dashboards, which gives a holistic view, like how exactly the cases were solved, like what exactly is the performance, what is the ROI, basically what is the CSAT score or the net promoter score. Those kind of things can be measured actually. So it is like the key performance indicators that can be measured using this service analytics. The next is like the telephony integration, like which is the call center or the contact center integration. So basically like the contact center integration are done like using a couple of ways, which is like the CTI toolkit and the Open CTI. So CTI toolkit is like the vendor will provide you like the adapters, and like with the adapter, like you will have to configure that for that particular vendor. Like every vendor has its particular adapter for integration with Salesforce softwares. So basically the CTI toolkit helps us to establish that connection between the telephony systems and Salesforce, so that the agent doesn't have to move away from the service console, and he can directly like call the customer if required, or even like if he wants like to log that call or have the chat transcripts which has been a part of the like call, or create the case directly out of the call. So there are like Service Cloud voice features which actually is doing that currently. And Open CTI is like browser based, it is not adapter based. It is like a open connection basically. So basically like you can utilize this based on browsers and can integrate with any customers, basically with the soft phone capabilities available. So you can integrate with the telephony systems. Now Service Cloud voice is a recent feature which has been brought out from Salesforce side, like which is very important. Like while you are having a telephone call with the customer, you can create a case from that call, log all the details of that call using the Service Cloud voice. Visual remote assistance is something like you have embedded snap-ins, and like you can directly have a video call. So say what exactly happened is like a customer is facing some issue at the first place. So he can like give you the image. Say if he sends an image to you using Einstein's vision, basically we can utilize like and get like similar images or similar issues that is existent into the system. So based on the data modeling or the Einstein discovery that we have done into the system, we can determine like what exactly is the cause of that issue, and we can then help the customer actually that okay, you can try, these are the next steps. Without even visiting the customer's place, you can solve the customer's issues. The second piece can be like, the second thing can be like, you a technician, but again after checking on certain stuff on the product, he is not able to figure out like what exactly, so he needs an expert advice. In that case also he can have a visual remote assistance from the expert on that case, and this actually helps to close down or track the case or support the customer's service at a very faster pace than which it was earlier. So these are embedded snap-ins and like video controllers, which helps us actually to send images. Even like you can have like sharing your screen, you can show the video of the product, and you can get into a video call with the customer and like help them resolve their issues. The next part, as I already talked about, is like the self-service channel. So self-service is like the community portal which is being created, and it also integrates like the social customer service basically. So social customer services like from Twitter or WhatsApp. So wherever you are actually logging an issue, or if you just put it on the handles of those companies, basically they track it based on cases, and ticket or cases created into the Salesforce ecosystem. And on the self-service channel is like, again, like it's a community where you have a like you have already branded your company's service that is provided basically. And it, if say I am a customer and I am a customer of your service, I have bought some service, like I definitely have a login, I can check all the details of whatever products I have bought and what are the issues that I have logged. If there are certain stuff that I want to get it resolved at a faster pace, what will be the estimated date that the service will be completed, and other stuff. can be taken on from the community itself. Like if I even want to log a case or log an inquiry, talk to the support agents, like all of that good stuff can be directly done or embedded into the communities. The next is like the field service. So field service is actually like if I need to like say if I need to schedule a service for you, definitely it is important that I know like what exactly is the availability of yours, what is the case that has been created, whether my service agent or the person who will be solving these issues has the capabilities or not, and based on that the schedule will be created for you. And again, while the service appointment is created, we also need to engage the customer, because if the customer is not available and it is outside his availability hours, then what happens is like the field service will keep on moving. So like the agent will go to the place, and then definitely like if the customer is not available, he will not be able to serve the customer, and the time to close the case will definitely get increased, and the customer will not be happy in that case. So field service lightning actually provides like scheduling and dispatching all these cases, and helps us to like provide more efficient service to the customers in that manner. The next is like Einstein bots, live agents, and omni-channel. So this, I think like we already covered that this is like one-stop solution. Like you can directly have like the chats enabled into your service, or you have bots, which actually does like a conversation with you, anticipating that you are talking to a person on the other side of the house, but those are actually bots which has some intents, and based on the intents, like they bring out the details and share to you. And if say the bot is not able to answer you, we can directly like route you to a live agent who can help you solve your issues. So moving on, so these are the Service Cloud features which is available currently. And like moving on, we will just discuss like what is the Einstein support for Service Cloud, and where exactly do we see in like Einstein support that can be utilized for the Service Cloud as of yet. So Einstein case classification and case routing is one of those important parts, like where like each of these cases has like based on a predictive model, basically like based on the data that is existent into the system, there is case classifications done. Then based on those case classifications, we can assign the cases to basically certain queues or to certain agents based on the skills that is available based on the case classification. So Einstein helps us with case classification and case routing. This is an integral part or important part which helps us in the case management modules, basically. So you can assign it faster and you can get it resolved, or you can get it routed to the correct agent based on these classifications. The next set of things is like Einstein article recommendations is on the knowledge management part, where Einstein will recommend you the articles which is supporting. Just a second. Yeah. So Einstein will help you with the articles which is supporting this use case. So if your problem determines this or has certain keywords, there will be articles which will be searched to into the complete organization or the ecosystem, and like it will provide you the articles which best suits your purpose actually. And like we can close on the cases faster based on that. Like Einstein reply recommendation again is like a conversational feature basically, and based on these we can do the replies to the customer like quickly and efficiently. Service analytics we already talked about. It gives a 360-degree view. It like has like all the features like the reports dashboards, and that can be like helps actually to measure all the KPIs, and also gives you like a executive level view, or if a supervisor wants to view like what exactly the agents are working upon and what exactly is the blockers or the next best recommendation or next best action that can be recommended based on that like can be taken. Einstein bots, again we talked about that these are intelligent bots which actually takes care of like all the transactional things which happens into the ecosystem. Like you will not even understand that there is not a person who is sitting on the other side, and there are intents and dialogues based on that, like which is created, and based on that like the results are being returned. Einstein discovery model prediction builder helps actually to discover like all the case types or other things that is existent into the system, And the prediction builder actually will help us to predict like what exactly could be the next best action based on the discovery that has happened. So based on that, the service agent can close the cases at a very faster pace. Einstein vision, as we already talked about, right? Like based on the images that is available. So if I share an image, like this is the problem or this is the product that I bought and this is the issue that is being seen. Say my laptop has a black screen error. So if I can just take that and send it across, and if or certain details alongside, based on those images, Einstein vision actually has the capability to bring out like what are the related cases that has been created and how exactly that got resolved. So basically it is again helping you to determine the next best action which can be taken care of. Einstein language is something which is on the IVR support. So basically this is for the contact center. Moving on, like the service cloud data model, like I will quickly wrap this up because like this is, I will share the link, like how exactly the service cloud data model works. So the core is the case, and like we already talked about the objects, right? Like the case, entitlements, knowledge articles. The knowledge articles are divided based on the article types or the record types into the system. And basically the self-service user is belonging to the communities, which actually plays a key role in determining like so that we can deflect the cases and not create more cases into the system. So basically like each of these case or the contact is entitled to certain things. So if we see the right hand side of like the right half of this image, it talks about like all the cases and the entitlements which are again related to the contracts and contract line items based on the service contract that is available with the customer. And if we see on the left side of like from the cases, like we see like all the knowledge articles or the case articles that are present, and like the feeds, comments, chatter posts, and other things which is available into the service cloud data model. So this will actually help us determine like what exactly is service cloud capable of doing out of the box and what is the data model that is already available with us. The next piece is like the field service lightning data model, and the most important part is like on field service lightning that we can help actually boost the agent's time so that he doesn't have to visit multiple times, or a service appointment can be scheduled or rescheduled at the bestowal of the customer, and the customer at the end of everything we want a happy customer. So the most important part of this data model is actually the work orders that gets generated, and based on the work orders there are service appointments which has to be like based on the service appointment these work orders are generated, and like the field service agent has to like take a 360-degree view of these work orders alongside like the work order case account, and all other details has to be checked from the agent. And each of these service resources or the agents who are present in this territory who will be supporting these cases, like there is again the scheduling or dispatching mechanism which is very important in the field service lightning. Like while you dispatch or while you schedule a work order for a particular field service, it is based on the capabilities of the service agent, so that if the service agent is capable and like has the skills matching to this service request, then only he will be scheduled for that. So it actually is based on the, again, it also checks like the max available time and the minimum utilization. So based on that, so that your agents are not overworked, like these kind of things are also taken care from this field service scheduling mechanism or the dispatch that we do. So now like we have seen like what are the capabilities of the service cloud. Now we will be talking about like two or three solutions, which is as per like the case studies or like the solutions that we have, and what was the challenge and how that was overcome and what was the result out of it. So the first case study, or you can call it like the customer success stories, which has already been done, and like we have multiple, or like we have tons of cases where exactly service cloud has helped people or helped the customers and to come across the challenges that they were facing and has provided a like solution which help the customers to like boost the agent productivity and like reduce the cost that was incurred, and like at the end like have a good CSAT score. So now for this case study on John Hancock, what was the challenge? That while this COVID thing happened, right, like every agent was not able to move to the customer's place or like take the conversations in that manner. And like the entire telephony system or the contact center was not available for the agents. So they had to move something on the cloud basically. So the agents actually had issues like where they juggled or they had issues navigating across the systems and had difficult time having like the service interaction with the customers, and the routing capabilities was not that great, and like the supervisors were not even able to gain the visibility like which agent is doing what and how exactly things are moving on that front. So the solution to it came with like we like the Salesforce recently had like partnership with Amazon to bring out like amazing solutions to this. So basically the Service Cloud Voice with Amazon Connect helped actually to move the entire contact center to the cloud using the Amazon Connect, and with the Service Cloud features like the voice, like where we have this IVR where you can directly capture from the call itself and log the call details as a like case, and you can create the case out of that. And the Service Cloud Voice helped actually the flexibility and agility of this work from home agents. And even this like the supervisors were able to have real-time view into what exactly the agent was doing with this dashboard, the Service Cloud Analytics dashboard, and they were able to help the right people at the right time so that the escalations could be avoided, and like the proper trainings for the agents can be done where they seek in the like help. So as a result, what happened is that the net promoter score increased by 80%. The IVR time, which was like the waiting time for the customers, which was very high on the other side of the house, like it decreased by 50% because like most of this was automated. The IVR was again automated in this case. So the decrease in like IVR time for the customers also happened, like where the call waiting time reduced. And like for the US segment only, John Hancock was able to like process 4 million phone cases a year. So in this manner, like John Hancock actually moved their entire telephony system to the cloud and helped resolve the cases based on that. Like, and they decreased actually the cost which was incurred on the CTI implementation of the contact centers. The next case study actually is about the NextGen Healthcare, where like the self-service channel actually helped the customer to deflect the cases. Like if you have like the similar cases were opened by customers for same set of requests, like different customers raising the same type of cases because help articles were not present. And again, like even if the help articles were present, they were not categorized in a manner, and the agent were taking more time because like while searching out through the articles, or if the agent doesn't have the required skill sets, definitely like it will take more time for them. And because of this, what happened, like more and more customers who were having issues, they used to call the call center, and definitely like if there are more calls to the call center costs increased actually, and the agent productive time decreased, and like the customer had to go into rounds with the call center agents, and definitely the customer satisfaction score decreased based on that. So while on this use case, to like solve this challenge, the self-service community was implemented. Inside the self-service community, like you can have features like if there is a question which is asked, it can be resolved, or if somebody has faced similar issues, they can tell them the solution to that as well. And if it doesn't support that, or even if you're like from the bots in the self-service community, like you can have that conversational bots, and if you raise a concern and they can have like on the community, they will help you with the transactions. And if the bots are not able to do it, they will then move you to a live agent basically. So basically that will get escalated to the support agents, and then the support agents will resolve these cases basically. And with the help of correct knowledge management setup and the classification of articles and usage of Einstein recommendation, like you can definitely get like more solutions faster, and definitely cases should not be even opened, like, because if you already have a solution to the problem that you are raising for, definitely you need not ask or seek for support. So it helped in actually like 30% case deflection, and it also helped in like 46% there was an increase in agent productivity for sure, because the cases were deflected, and the customer satisfaction definitely increased like by 50% for the next gen healthcare. Last and not the least is like the field service capabilities. So this use case actually talks about the field service capabilities, which was implemented for Ornua. So Ornua is a German-based company. So basically, like they had like their mobile solutions, which like they had their like issues where they wanted like offline mobile solutions, where the field service team had to visit like every time, and like the same problem that I mentioned right earlier, that if the scheduling is not done in alignment to the customer's needs, definitely it will not be efficient and productive. Like you will have to do multiple rounds, and definitely the customer will not be satisfied based on that. The second important thing is like the reporting and other stuff which needs to be done. Basically, the inventory management is another important part in the field service lightning, where like if the asset or things that you require for fixing the issue is not available nearby, then there is a bigger chunk of a problem, because you will have to travel a longer distance, and that will definitely waste more time. So if we enable field service lightning out of the box along with Einstein Automate has like a lot of features which is available to deflect or solve these kind of problems. Like, because the scheduling engine has the service appointments based on the customer's requirements, you can do that. And then you can like provide the like service appointments to be done from the customer side on the communities as well. And once the work orders are generated, or if your appointment is scheduled, like the work orders are generated, the skills will be matched to the person inside your territory or people who are in your geographical location or nearby, so that those people only visit you and solve the problem at a faster rate if the skills match. So basically what happens is like these are like the problem is solved manifold. Like first and foremost, like the traveling time or the time spent for the visits is taken care of. So definitely like the field agent can serve more customers in a particular day, and if his skills matches, he will not be wasting more time on each of these issues, right? Like, and again the third part is like bringing on the inventory. So definitely with Einstein, like checking even based on that model, like where exactly the nearest asset is available for the fix that you are gonna do or like work upon, you can determine, and like the to and fro time will be definitely very much limited based on that. Now the other feature which is there is actually the offline support for mobile app. So basically agents, even if they do not have connectivity or do not have like the connectivity, like while they are working for a particular customer, they can still like save in all the details, because they already like have all the details for the customers, and they can use the routing mechanism and like travel to the person place using the maps, which is an out of the box feature for FSL. And they can also support like if they want to enter all the details, like say if they have already served the customer and they want to save in the details, so they saved in the details into the app, but that is not synced immediately because they were offline. So in that case also, it is not something that the data will be lost or like those kind of things. Like as soon as they go online, the data will be synced with the system and all the details will be present in the case. So the offline support for this mobile app is also available. And the last is like the service analytics, which we already talked about. Again, has an enhancement to field service analytics, where like the utilization or the travel time or the agent's productivity can be like monitored, which will help actually to ascertain like the next best recommendations, and like basically it will help in actually incurring more happy customers. So at the end, the outcome or the result that we all want is like the customer satisfaction. So if the customer has logged in a case, you need to solve their problems or give them a solves their purpose. So it actually resulted in like 50% increase in daily store and 31% decrease in the support costs. Okay. So yeah, that is it. So basically, obviously, like after these case studies, there are certain limitations which definitely we have to consider. Like while you are proposing a solution, like every customer is unique, and every customer will be coming with their own set of challenges, their own set of constraints. So no matter how much features are provided from the Service Cloud, every customer's requirement will have to be trialed or seen through a different vision. And like you have to plan things accordingly. You have to see the tools which is available with you. Like these are the tools that will help you suffice or but again like you have to see like what is the best use case that can be put into place. Like you can utilize the CTI for sure, but whether is it like if you utilize Amazon Connect with the Service Cloud feature, will that enable greater insights or will that help you create more cases? Whether if you implement FSL, will that help your agents boost their productivity or help you solve the cases faster? So those kind of things are important because at the end of the day, the CSAT score matters. Yeah. So I'll be wrapping up with this. Hey, Kathy, so there.
Thank you, Anand, for such an insightful session. Let's just wait for Husky to join in once. We'll click a screenshot and wrap up the session. So meanwhile, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in the chat. Yes, Husky is here. Also, we are running this contest wherein 3 to 4 questions will be out in the WIT group pages. So go on and answer those questions and you might win certification vouchers or Amazon vouchers. Neha and Anand, I would request you both to come on camera once. We'll click a screenshot.
Sure, Kathy.
Kathy, you'll have to work with this with the picture that you see on screen. I haven't joined from a laptop which has a camera support. Apologies.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in on a Sunday morning. See you all at day 4. Don't forget to tune in to WIT LinkedIn and Twitter pages. Yamini, the questions will be posted on Twitter and LinkedIn pages. All you need to do is go there and just answer the questions. Do keep in mind to tag us and use the hashtags. Everything will be mentioned in the post. So just have a look. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.